Hi there. This is the sort of more in-depth slash spoiler review of Godzilla. So let's just get right into it. As much as I do like this, as much as I do like Godzilla 2014, there are only like a couple major, a couple complaints I do have. One is that yeah, the human characters aren't as good as they could be. Some are good. The bits when they're good is knocked out of the park. But there are a few that I think they could have been reduced a bit or just taken out altogether. I think I mentioned Sally Hawkins doesn't really need to be in the film. I mean, I think she's a good actress and all. Just she's not really given too much to do. I mean, she's sort of like another scientist along with Ken Watanabe. But Ken Watanabe he has better scenes, he has better dialogue, and some just great bits. Though he does sound a bit like like he worships this thing, Godzilla, which I thought was kind of neat at the same time because well, they called him a god. Sally Hawkins has a good line. It's just like a monster, no, a god. That was a great line. Aaron Taylor Johnson, there was a great scene I like with Bryan Cranston where Aaron Taylor Johnson saying, "Dad, this stuff's crazy," and then Bryan Cranston mentions his wife, Aaron Taylor Johnson's mother, in the film, and you can see it in his eyes. Like he doesn't want to say, "Oh, you're crazy," because he misses his mother. He remembers that day, and yeah, you can see in his eyes that there were the bits that work well. What else was there? Yeah. I would have liked to seen that first fight when it's him at the airport, but that scene alone is kind of just I didn't really care what happened at that scene. Like he just comes in, he lets out a roar. The whole theater was shaking. The whole theater was clapping at that scene. Just him there letting out a roar. That alone is worth the price of admission. Just his presence. Like I'm looking up. I'm looking at a king. I'm looking at a god. Zilla. Yeah. And well, you do see the fight, and well, yeah, you see it from a TV. But that's kind of goes into I think what Gareth Edwards was saying, sort of from this human perspective. Now, of course, from the human perspective, we wanted to show the people watching the fight, and it didn't seem like the fight went on very long. They fought a bit, and then the Muto took off, and Godzilla retreated into the water. And for those who saying he doesn't appear much, he's in the film kind of throughout. You see him at the very beginning. You see him there, and in fact, you see him in like that scene before his full reveal, his face and everything. You sort of see him there, just bits of him just sort of looming around, kind of Cloverfield style, his big tails swinging around. That was a great scene. The flares just sort of come on his body. People are looking at this thing like, oh god, oh Godzilla. I wonder if the Church of the Godzilla. That'd be funny. So yeah, pacing and build-up are done really well. Also forgot to mention, and everyone's been saying this, Jeremy John said a lot, cinematography is just, wow. There's some, just absolutely gorgeous looking shots in this film, and just, some really neat things. A lot of the action, when this first Muto, breaks out of its cocoon and starts stomping around, you don't really see it from, a huge, wide perspective where you see the thing in the full frame. No, it's more like, you get it in close, you see the people sort of running around, this thing's stomping all over the place. It's hitting a bunch of people and stuff. So there's that. Yes, spoilers. Bryan Cranston does die about partway into this movie. After the first Muto is really Muto, pronounce that right. After the first Muto is released, he falls down a thing, and I think he breaks his neck, and he dies. But he gives some kind words of advice to Aaron Taylor Johnson, Ford. And quick question: what kind of name is Ford? I don't know. Also, let's see. Going back to characters I think that could have been cut out, I don't know, people are saying Elizabeth Olsen doesn't do much, but I don't think that was the point of her, not to just sort of sit there. I mean, it's sort of, there's this neat aspect of family throughout the entire film. I mean, you saw that with, Bryan Cranston and Juliette Binoche at the beginning of the film, and you see it later on in the film, and it's sort of just one of those things that, sort of it's hard to explain, really. The importance of family, I guess. One thing I also did like was oh yeah, I'll just talk about this quickly. Yeah, so the one thing I was sort of saying was that the one thing I wanted to see, his atomic breath. That alone, just like, I don't care. You could have cut out every single fight. I just wanted to see that, and it was beautiful. It was also lightish blue, so I guess there's a reason Bryan Cranston was in this movie. He looked like he was on meth. And oh god, like but he fights these two things. I will say it was slightly anticlimactic how he beat the first one. He just sort of whips his tail into a building, but it was still cool to watch. The second one though, that was just like yes, yes. He basically gives it CPR, breathing radioactive breath into its mouth. That was just like I was like, that is the new CPR standard right there. He's just like rips off his head. There's also an incredible scene where going back to cinematography, where Godzilla he's got quite the personality in this. He's smart. He's not really he's not just like a giant thing. Like you can see him in his eyes. Well, I have to say he's got really really nice eyes actually. Well, both to look at and really expressive as well. There's a great scene where Aaron Taylor Johnson, but after Godzilla defeats the thing, Godzilla sort of collapses, and he just looks at Ford, Aaron Taylor Johnson. He just looks at him. They're just looking back at one another. It's just like, and Godzilla finally rests. And then, okay, that was the scene after Ken Watanabe and Sally Hawkins. They've been looking for this thing like who knows how long. It's finally there, and it's just like oof. God, they think Godzilla's dead, but then he gets up and lets out a roar. There's another great scene when Godzilla actually gets to San Francisco and he starts fighting the Mutos. He lets out a roar. Whenever he roars, the whole theater shakes. It's just an earth-shattering moment. Like time has frozen just to hear this guy roar. And I love his roar though. It sounds like the original, but it's done. It's not the original, of course. But it just has such a nice quality to it, nice feel to it, a nice roar to it, as we might say. Dougie, what do you think, Dougie? Did you like Godzilla? But yeah, much to talk about spoilers. So Bryan Cranston dies fairly early on, and it's a pretty unique death. Though it would have been neat if Ford sort of mentioned it a bit. He phones his wife and leaves a message saying, Dad died, and you can see it in his eyes. He's sad, he's crying, he's all that. It's emotional. Heisenberg died again. Spoilers. But yeah. But going back to Elizabeth Olsen, she does a good job, I think. I don't get why people are saying she's unneeded or doesn't do anything. I mean, yeah, she's sitting there in San Francisco. What's she supposed to do exactly? She's not there in the action with Godzilla and all that. There is a cool scene where she sees Godzilla. He just rises up. He's like, I love the smell of radiation in the morning. What else? The nice reunion between them was nice. I don't know, what else is there to spoil? His atomic breath was just like, I remember just like, because that was the one thing I just wanted to see, and I'd read up, it's like, it will be in the movie, and none of the previews showed it. There was nothing that showed it or anything. Most of the reviews I read said it wasn't there. Well, that didn't mention it. So I thought, but then when you see it, like, just the build up to that is also awesome, quite literally. You see the spikes on his tail start glowing. It's just glowing. It's just glowing higher on his back. And then finally, just lets it out on the Muto. Just like, you see it about 3 times. You see it once, then you see it like a minute later for a second time. And then you see it right at the end when he's giving CPR to the thing. That was neat. I do question though, Aaron Taylor Johnson, like, they find this what is they have this nuke that they try to lure the Mutos with, but the Mutos got it, and they only have about an hour or like an hour and a half before it detonates. So they get there, they take it out, they can't defuse it because the thing is stuck. So Aaron Taylor Johnson thinks, well, there's all these eggs there, like the Muto eggs. Like, it's a male and a female. They breed. And you actually see the thing's pregnant at one point. Like, you can see the little tiny eggs, embryos, all that, which I thought was a really nice touch. I looked over to my friend and I said, sequels. Sequels everywhere. And he just laughed. But no sequels after that, because Aaron Taylor Johnson blows it up with, I do question that. He fills this thing full of gasoline, then it lights on fire. I would question how much gasoline we need, but hey, giant 350-foot monster that fires radioactive breath. I can question I don't know how much realism I can question in that. But yeah, so I guess this is much of a spoiler? I don't know. I do like the very end when he retreats into the water. But going back to what I was saying earlier, he is sort of throughout the film. Like, you see him at the beginning in the opening. The opening credits are really nice. It's going into that whole the U.S. were doing nuclear tests in the 50s. They launched a huge one. They were doing that to kill Godzilla. No one knows where Godzilla came from. The explanation in the film is that, he's probably thousands, if not millions of years old. He's been around since came around since the dinosaurs came out, when the world was much more radioactive and such, and that after it began to cool and radiation levels began to decrease, he went into the sea that's where he adapted. And because of the radiation and all that, that's why he's the way he is. So it's explained better in the film, which I thought was that's kind of neat, actually. But for the most part, no one really knows where this thing came from. No one knows if they probably think it's the only of its kind. They also don't really know how old he is. He could be thousands of years old, could be millions of years old. He's like a warrior looking for one last battle. He's sort of throughout there. He's in the beginning. You see him about almost an hour into the film. Then you see him the military ships are just there following him, which did look a little silly. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just like, they're just following him. Like, how is Godzilla not like, hey, fuck you, ship? But then after a while, he just sort of goes away. He's like, oh, he's underwater. He's going like 35 knots. I'm like, 35 knots, pretty fast. And then again, giant 350-foot lizard with giant tail. You can also see his gills on him, which I thought was a nice little detail. Done by motion capture, apparently. Not by Andy Serkis. If Godzilla was motion captured by Andy Serkis, this film would have been 1,000 times greater. But going back, so yeah, then you see him. Then you see him there. Then he rips through Golden Gate Bridge. That was a great scene as well. Then you see him fight these things for a bit, and that was cool. Like you could see it in the first teaser. These guys are parachuting in. The scenes actually change in the movie. In the trailer, it's just Godzilla coming through the mist. In the actual film, it's him fighting one of the Mutos in the dust and the lightning. So it sort of like flashes in and out. But it's clear what's going on, and there's a great scene where Ford, Aaron Taylor Johnson, he comes just right up to it. Like, he's right near his mouth. He's there, and Godzilla's about there, and you see him roar again. And then, you see him all throughout the final fight. And, I think Godzilla is a good film. I don't think it's great. There certainly could have been some other bits that could have been make it great, but I don't know, it's my second favorite film of this year so far. The first one is the Lego Movie, of course. But that might change. I'm definitely going to watch it again, so maybe if I have anything else to comment on. But yeah, Godzilla is awesome, and I hope this was an informative spoiler review that we can actually talk about stuff for once. And Gareth Edwards says he says he is open to the idea of sequels, but like I said, the way this film's structured, it doesn't feel like, oh yeah, there's more to go to the story. At this point, he can do whatever he wants with Godzilla. I mean, I hope he makes another one. I hope he directs it as well. But he can go wherever he wants with Godzilla. Hey, introduce Mothra, Rodan, King Ghidorah, Mecha Godzilla. That'd be awesome. So yeah, Godzilla is getting a 9 out of 10 for me, and I don't know. Tell me what you thought. All right, see ya.